Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast. Today, we're joined by Rick Scot, CISO at Elevate Textiles. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Great to have you. Before we get too far in, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Do you know if a hacker's in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and the hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass your security, so companies need a way of knowing when someone's gotten past their security. That's where Cyberlinks comes in. We've partnered with the best cybersecurity companies in the world to be able to provide our clients with the best solutions at the best prices. So whether it's managed SIM, SOC, EDR, MDR, XDR, you name it, we'll help you find the right solution at the right price. Find out more at cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. Rick, for those who aren't familiar, can you tell us about Elevate Textiles and your role there as CISO?
I'll do my best. I'm in week 8 at this point, so I'm kind of drinking from a fire hose, and the hose keeps getting more powerful. So, it's I'll tell you, it's wonderful. I joined an environment and a culture that is collaborative. It's about coming together. No one's jockeying for something. Everybody really wants to do what's best for the company. A lot of longevity. A lot of people been here a long time, and still love coming to work every day. And that really says a lot about the company. We are a textiles company. We do fabrics and threads and things like that. So safety equipment. So you think about first responders, equipment, and things like that. And I'm learning. I spent 20 plus years in the financial sector. So this is, I'm bringing the security experience here, but also at the same time learning about the business. Because I think that as a leader, it's really important to understand the business you're supporting, and the impacts. So if you put something in place, what are the impacts to the business? And there's a whole new set of impacts here. And so it's been really fascinating and quite enjoyable to learn something new, because I'm an avid learner. It's something I'm always learning, I'm always reading, which is why I love being in cyber, because there's always something new happening out there. But it's been, and I think it's going to continue to be a really great thing. And I'm really glad that I'm here.
Yeah, I think that's one of those keys to successes that people often overlook, is that genuine desire to learn, right? And I think it especially in today's day and age, where cyber especially and technology is advancing so rapidly, if you're not learning all the time, then you just fall behind so quickly. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah, I often say, I've said this a lot lately, actually, that if I ever call myself an expert, be worried, because it means that I think I know everything and I'm not willing to learn whatever's coming next. So
yeah, 100%. And it's wild, because with the pace that technology changes now, I mean, you rewind 20, 30, 40 years ago, it wasn't hard to feel like an expert. Today, you got to be delusional if you feel like an expert in something. Yep. I mean, like, how delusional are you? Like, I'm sorry, you can be good at something, but boy, it's changing so quickly. Just the pace it's wild.
Yeah, and it's moving faster and faster every day.
Yeah. Well, so you've had an interesting past. I mean, I like how I don't think we've had two guests on who've had the same path to the top. When in technology, you often get people who you assume that they were in technology from birth, right? And they just went straight up the ladder. But it turns out that's not the case. Can you walk us through your origin story, if you will?
So yeah, I had a rotary telephone, and if we were lucky, we had a clicker for the TV, but we really didn't. I'm dating myself. I'm a Gen Xer. I'll cop to it. So technology for me was, I worked for a bank in the branch. I did new accounts. I was a teller. I was a vault teller. I did a multitude of things. Because like I said, I'm always wanting to learn. So I get bored. And when I get bored, I go and figure out what I want to do. Where's the next opportunity? And so I hated it, quite honestly. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And I got a job working for the Walt Disney Company in doing tech support for their first multimedia CD-ROM game that was developed for a 16-bit sound card, and most computers only had an 8-bit sound card in it. So they brought in a bunch of us, and I really just I found my calling. I loved it. I got to play with PCs and with Macs and kind of understand things. I was writing scripts in DOS. I was, again, I'm dating myself, but it was exciting to me. And again, as an avid learner, every day I learned something new. And I took that, I moved into building out their training and quality assurance program to doing call center implementation. So making sure the voice and data lines were laid, that people were trained properly, that they understood, because when you work for a company like Disney, there are standards in the way you work with what they call their guests. And so I was responsible for that. I spent a lot of time in places in the country I'd never been. I can say I spent December in Minot, North Dakota. I've never been so cold in my life. I'm from Southern California. Cold is, maybe 50 degrees, not minus 50 degrees. So, but from there, I did, there was the dot-com boom was happening, and I kind of jumped around a little bit. And in 2002, I got a job as a senior business analyst managing technology platforms for the business. And again, I started to learn and to do new things. And then in 2007, I moved into data, and I loved data because I see patterns and I see things that maybe you don't want me to see. And I did have a vendor once going through an Excel spreadsheet very quickly, and I saw something and I said, wait, go back. They never showed me a spreadsheet again because I was seeing things I didn't want me to see. But so I did 3 huge data transformations through mergers and acquisitions, through a huge process improvement program in the processing of home loans. And I loved it, and it was great. But I'd done it. Once you do something and you're good at it, again, I would never say that I was an expert, but I was good at what I was doing, and I could do it in about half the time. It took 3 people to replace me.
Wow.
But because I was doing it so long, it was easy.
This was at Bank of America, right?
Correct. And so I moved to Charlotte. I'm a native of Los Angeles. I'm born and raised. I had never lived anywhere else. I moved 5 miles from where I grew up, and I stayed there for 21 years. And I decided I wanted to continue my career with Bank of America, and the best way to do that was to come where they're headquartered. And I wanted to move into cyber because I was doing some work with my business information security officer on the data side and the data controls, and their policies were not strong enough in my head, because I think no one should have access to the data. The data is where the problems lie. And she sent me one of those children's sheriff's badges that said information security deputy. So I was on to something. And I moved into the global information security space at Bank of America. And what an incredible opportunity, because the organization is very much about training and making sure and bringing in the right people and giving them the experience they want. I had 5 different jobs over the course of the time. I spent the last 5 years in working on the team to build out the cybercrime division, and COVID hit. And so I had an incredible boss and mentor who gave me some really tough things to figure out. And so I started to do some threat intelligence work and some digging, and it's data. I just want to dig some more. I want to find that, whatever it is that I need to find. So it was very cool. And then I moved into the international space, and I worked with Europol and Interpol and the World Economic Forum and the G7. I participated in the creation of a white paper on ransomware. I represented my CISO on the ransomware task force. So there was just a lot of great opportunity. And in 2023, things changed. And it just felt like the perfect opportunity for me to try something new. I got this great offer from Bank of New York. I thought I was moving to London. That didn't happen. Then I thought I was moving to New York. That didn't happen. And I'm actually glad it didn't happen. But because 2 years after we moved to Charlotte, my parents followed, and my brother's in Florida. And so it's really nice to have them close. I've never lived in the same city as my parents as an adult. So having that relationship with them, we see them every week, has been really special. And also, I'm there if something happens.
Yeah.
And something happened last year. My mom found, God, I hope she doesn't listen to this, but she found a Geek Squad webpage, and she was a member, and she called it, and she calls me and she said, he said that there's something going on, and my dad's on his phone with the Bank of America, and it wasn't really Bank of America. And so I said to my mom, I'm driving to her house because she lives 2 miles from me, and I'm like, unplug your router, unplug the internet, just unplug it, turn your computer off, power it down. And then my dad started yelling at the guy because he can't stand when people do that, and berating him. And but I was able to be there for them,
That's nice.
when something like that happened, and I'm able to help. My mom realizes when someone says, don't call your cybersecurity son, that there's something wrong. So,
Yeah,
but
that's a red flag.
yeah. So, I did some really good work at Bank of New York, cyber threat quantification. It was a different new approach to measuring risk, coming at it from the threat perspective, which is where my passion lie, is understanding the threats. I read threat intelligence every morning, just because over coffee, because I like to read what's going on. Sometimes I make people crazy because I'm sending things. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, we should look at this, but I want to make sure we're educated and we know what's floating out there. So I did a lot of work there. I did a lot of work around identity and access management. I really learned a lot. When I think about my tenure there, although it was only 18 months, there were so much information that I gained, and the way that I think and operate is very different than when I started, in a very positive way. And the Charlotte has a very tight-knit cyber community. A lot of us know one another, and so when the CISO for Elevate was leaving, she pinged me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, are you interested?" And after some amazing interviews and with these amazing people, I was really grateful they offered me the job, and I have not been disappointed since I started.
That's
And this is
fantastic.
my first CISO job, so it's a great place to start.
That's great. Well, you gave us a lot to unpack there, but I want to go back to your daily reading, of threat intelligence. So, can you share what your favorites are to read?
I actually I do scroll through LinkedIn. I look for the FBI. I look for CISA. I look for Europol. Their cybercrime feeds. I follow some people that post some things. For ransomware, there's a gentleman that I know who calls himself a ransomware sommelier, which I totally appreciate, because he said, I'm not an expert. We had this whole expert conversation,
Yeah.
but he knows a lot. And
Yeah.
so that, and then I get threat intelligence. I have a threat intelligence feed that I access that'll tell me kind of what's come in since the last time I was there. And I'll be honest, it's always 42 to 47 new items every day. And I don't read them all. I skim them. The good news is it's in a list, so I can see the headline and then a little bit about it. And if I want, I can click into it.
Mhm.
But again, I want to know what's going on, and I want to know for myself, as well as how I can protect the firm and the company. I have that
Yeah.
banking mindset. Everything's a firm, and it's not a firm; it's a company.
Yep. I mean, it's kind of like, back in the day, even kind of today still. You the bankers would open up the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, and you've got to read the stuff to stay ahead, and investors and everybody the same. And it's interesting how that's really becoming the thing now in cyber and IT. You have to be staying up on this stuff, and so you've got to. There's just no two ways about it. It's
Yeah,
otherwise you're not able to really do your job well, or do the company that you're working for any sort of service if you're just staying exactly where you were when you got hired, or where you were 5 years ago when you got interested in it, whatever it might be. So
right,
I love that. I think that is the way to start the day. I mean, some people might be after their coffee, some people, I don't know, teach their own. Um,
right.
so let me ask you. So, back when you were at Bank of America, you were pretty humble about the whole thing. But you also have, what is it, 27 patents?
I do have 27 patents.
You
So,
say humbly. I mean, that's a pretty big
uh,
deal. That speaks. I mean, it's interesting because you'd expect it from somebody who was like I don't know, an engineer designing stuff.
mhm.
Well, look, we're designing these products, so with every product there are patents, and that's just part of the job. But you don't expect it so much in the world of IT and cyber, especially when you're not, on the manufacturing side. So, how did this come to be?
Bank of America is very big on patents. I think the information security space has the most patents of any information security organization.
Wow.
Um, when I left in 23, they had hit over 1,000 patents as an organization. There are people within the organization that have more than 100. So
Wow.
I always, when I say, when the reason I'm humble is because I know the people that have so many, but they hold innovation. Innovation is very important at the bank and very important. And so they have innovation sessions, and legal will hold one, and then your group will hold one, and I participate. And as you can tell, I'm not shy. I would offer my opinion on certain things, or I would come to them and say, "Hey, what about, let's talk about this." When the pandemic hit, we started to talk a little bit about how do we help some of our elderly customers get money. And so I think I have a patent. Again, there's 27 of them, so it's hard to keep track, but for the use of drones to deliver money. How do we protect the consumer? So you go to a gas station to use your card. Using GPS, we can tell, we pull in the threat intelligence, again, going back to threat intelligence, and we can tell that this gas station's been hit with skimmers, 7, 8 times. Maybe you want to go somewhere else, or you want to use cash. So, those are just a couple of the things. There's a lot of data. Um, I'm looking at one of my latest from 24, unauthorized activity detection based on input analysis and monitoring. So it's detecting unauthorized activity. Let's start over. It's detecting unauthorized activity to so so think about, these threat actors are going in to a bank. Everything's electronic, everything's data, it's done online. They go online, they create a business account using the CEO of XYZ company Gmail account. Well, it's 60 days before the bank. You have 60 days to confirm. There's a lot that a threat actor or an adversary can do in those 60 days. So how do we use public data to ensure that this is accurate? So if you say that, I'm Matthew Connor and I'm the CEO of this company, and I'm in St. Louis, and we see from the public records that you're in Los Angeles, we can stop it. We can put a hold on it. No transactions can happen until you validate and verify that this is in fact your company. So that those are just a
Cool.
couple of the many that we put together.
That's awesome. I mean, because I mean, the reality, 60 days, that's like you said, that's ridiculous. You'd think that it would be, you've got to prove that to get the account and get access to begin with. Not that you wouldn't think there'd be any sort of grace period there.
Well, you have to think about we're in the electronic age and you're competing.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true. If it's too
what
difficult.
banks are doing this, what banks are doing that.
Yep.
So, I can go to JP Morgan Chase and do this, or I can go to Wells Fargo and do this.
Yeah.
It's what I think of the new form of check kiting. If
Yep.
if you remember back in the day when we wrote checks, and we didn't have that instant um, overnight, like you write a check and you cash it or deposit it, it's paid quickly. I think the last time I wrote a check was to the movers that moved me into my place. So that was, and I think my checks still have my Los Angeles address on them because I don't want to pay
Right.
$30 for new checks. But anyway, so yeah, so I think that is that's become a just the criminals are getting more sophisticated as we talked about, and there's all kinds of different ways. We talked about tech support scams that um, we all get those smishing texts. I love the ones I get now with you owe tolls.
Yeah.
Um,
Classic. Instant
so
classic. Yep. Well, I think the interesting one, and you kind of hit on it, a little bit there with your parents is, let's just call it elder abuse. The elder fraud, it is abusive how much, then I saw a statistic the other day, from the reported FBI numbers on the senior fraud. It's insane. I mean,
it's staggering.
it is staggering. It's many billions. And
Mhm.
that was just last year. And it's really, I mean, it's staggering. And it comes down as you go down to, from the baby boomers to the Gen X, and then, it keeps getting smaller. I mean, obviously they're not targeting younger people, the same way, and they don't have as much money usually. So that it's a harder, target, if you will.
Well,
Um,
it's interesting because in 2011, 2012, my grandmother got a call. She was in Florida. She's since passed, but she got a call, and she had two grandchildren, me and my brother. And my brother, didn't call as often as I did. So she picked up the phone. The person said grandma, and she said Rick, and they were off and running. So she was scrambling to send this me in Spain having an accident, $1,600, and I have everybody calling me and I'm working and I'm like, I'll call you at the end of, and finally I answered the phone. I think it was my mom that called and said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at work." "Why? You're not in Spain?" "No, I've never been to Spain. Why would I be in Spain?" The sad news to that, you talk about the monetary piece of it, but there's also the impact to the person and the
mhm.
family. And my grandmother didn't trust it was me again. It was really hard for her to have those conversations. She was elderly, she had Parkinson's, but still, I had a close relationship with her that was ruined because of the cyber criminals.
Oh, wow. Well, and the interesting part about that is it's only going to get much worse now. I mean,
Yeah.
with AI being able to completely spoof somebody's voice, to be able to spoof, their everything, their mannerisms, the way they speak, the whole nine yards. It's going to be really bad. And I think there's going to be a huge opportunity for, I think it comes down to kind of, identity, kind of verification. I don't know how we do it exactly just yet. I'm not sure where that, I think somebody much smarter than me is going to, obviously figure that
Yeah.
one out. But I mean, it's going to be something when now a scammer can call up your parents and it can sound just like you and talk like you and just say all the right things and have them transfer you money. Okay, great, no problem. Boom, and you have no idea. That's
The good
crazy.
news is that I don't ask my parents for money, so they
That's
would
right.
question that.
They'd be like, wait a second.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
especially if they try to pretend they're my brother, because then that will not work. So,
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, that whole battle between the good guys and the bad guys. And the funny part is I think that the industry has done well because of ransomware. I think it helped bring a level of interest and understanding to everyone. So it got a lot of buy-in. Sadly, it came at the cost of many billions of dollars. And now we've financed the bad guys. Now there's this whole dark industry that is well funded, and they're like, well, there's fortunes to be made here. And so that's the downside, I guess, as that has, as awareness has grown, so too has the that entire industry.
It's someone's full-time job. Just like I get up every day and I go into an office, or you get up every day and go into an office, they're doing the same thing. They're working 9 to 5 or whatever their hours are. And they clock out at the end of the day and probably get a bonus if they, get a good ransom, if it's a ransomware attack, or and they play the long game. There's no hurry, I think, because they've got the dollars now.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really unfortunate. So let me ask you, where do you see that going in the future? Any ideas?
I think you said it. I think with AI and with deepfakes, it's going to become more challenging. I went to a roadshow couple months ago, 3 months ago, that brought in a white hat hacker who showed us how AI can create a deep fake on video, voice, look, and it looked like the person standing in front of me. And that kind of stuff scares me, because you don't know. Like, is this a real person that I'm talking to? And it's just getting better. AI still has AI images have their issues. You see an AI image and you've got 6 fingers on one hand, or your ear is wrong in the wrong place on your head. So, but it's just going to get better. To your earlier point, it's moving so fast that it will continue to get better and better. The images will become better. The video becomes better. The ability to spoof and produce a deep fake, beyond the politics of it, or the fake news that's coming around, or all of those things, is someone spoofing a CFO or a CEO. And all I want is your SWIFT information and your wire information, and all of a sudden you've given them the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really unfortunate. And well, let me ask you, with the advent of AI, since we're now touching on that, where do you see it playing out in security? I guess on both sides, the good side and the bad side.
Right now, my opinion is, on the bad side, it's just going to create more adversaries, because it allows the novice in their mom's basement to perpetrate an attack, because all they have to do is go to this AI engine and say, I want malware that will encrypt this system, and all of a sudden they have it. How do I infiltrate? What is a brute force attack? How do I socially engineer?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, all of these things, and it's, from a generative AI perspective, you're getting it with you're getting some controls in those public facing tools, but there's also dark web AI tools. And then on the agentic AI side, which, it's machine learning, because we've been doing it for 10, 15 years. It's not new. So from a positive perspective, it reduces the time and the amount of noise you get into your SOC. So if you've got it set up correctly, I am a proponent of the MITRE framework in this case, and you have it set up correctly, you're able to kind of reduce that noise. So if you're tracking badge swipes, as an example, and someone badge swipes in Charlotte, but their IP is showing them in Switzerland, there's something wrong there. And that will go to the SOC analyst. But if they swipe in Charlotte, the IP is in Charlotte, and they're in the same place, you're good. So you don't have a SOC analyst looking at noise, and that noise gets louder and louder and louder as technology advances. So I think from an agentic AI perspective, the ability to do those types of things will help. But we have to make sure that the model is right and that we're doing tests, that we're looking at, hey, is it actually giving me the right things? Because you don't want to be surprised. I think we have to approach it with caution, but I think we have to approach it. And it's not we're going to implement it and then we're never going to look at it again. You have to do a proof of concept, figure out what the right approach is and slowly integrate it and make sure you're monitoring it. It's important that you have data loss prevention tools. If it's an agentic AI, do you know if you've got a third party, are they using AI? And are they putting AI on your system? Are you aware of that? I think contracts have to evolve with these security vendors to include AI and how you're protecting your data.
Oh, 100%. Could not agree more. Rick, I think that is brilliant advice. And I think it's been an absolute blast having you on. I think we could go on for days, down this rabbit hole. And I think we just keep feeding off each other with new ideas and new patents coming up. But since we don't have that much time, before we go, can you tell everybody where they can find out more about you and more about Elevate Textiles?
ElevateTextiles.com. If you want to learn more about the company and what we do. We've got a lot of really great sustainability, doing a lot of green efforts, really doing what we can to protect the environment. And about me, I'm on LinkedIn, Rick Scot, 1T. My LinkedIn profile is open so people can see what I do. You want to look at all the patents that I have. They're all listed there. It is public knowledge. Happy to answer questions if I can. Some of them are 10 years old, so it can be a challenge to remember. I have to read about it. So
that's awesome. Well, Rick, thanks again for coming on, and until next time.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.